Somewhere, right now, someone is about to lose everything. They're about to send a large payment to an account that looks completely legitimate. The logo's right, their finger hovers over confirm, and in the half second before that money leaves their account, something they will never see kicks in. An AI traces the destination, spots a hidden mule account that funnels stolen money to criminals, and freezes the transfer. The person gets a warning instead of a disaster. They never even learn how close they came. That's one kind of save. Here's another, happening millions of times a day. Every time you tap your card, an AI scores that one transaction against roughly 500 signals. Where you are, what you're buying, the merchant, the time, how it all fits everything you've ever bought. Then it returns a verdict in under a millisecond, faster than the terminal can beep. One payment network alone says that in a single year, this kind of AI blocked a reported $40 billion in fraud. Now, I've spent this entire series showing you where AI fails at markets, where it loses to humans, where it crashes things, where it just can't predict what happens next. Let me show you the one place it doesn't. Because this is the strange truth almost nobody tells you. The most successful artificial intelligence in all of finance isn't a trading bot or a hedge fund. It's invisible. It's been quietly riding inside the swipe of your card for years, and it is winning. Protecting ordinary people, right now, in the background, while you read this. But stay with me, because I'm not here to sell you a fairy tale. This isn't a victory. It's a war. It never ends. And the other side just got AI too. So how big is the enemy? Bigger than almost anyone realizes. Every year, payment card fraud steals around $33 billion worldwide. That's the best estimate from the Nielsen report, the industry's most cited scorekeeper. Hold on to that number because it's about to do something honest. That $33 billion is fraud that got through. It's the losses. And here's the part the breathless headlines skip. That number recently went down. A little. Even as the world ran more transactions than ever, the losses dipped. And the rate of fraud, how many cents are stolen for every $100 spent, has started bending down. The dollars are still enormous, and they're projected to keep climbing as commerce grows. But the share being stolen is shrinking. Something is pushing back. Here's the trap the internet sets. It smashes two numbers into one. So hold them apart. 33 billion got through. That's the fraud that won. The 40 billion one network blocked is the fraud that lost. Don't let anyone glue them together. The fight isn't evenly spread either. The United States runs about a quarter of the world's card payments, but takes more than 40% of the fraud. And the battlefield is shifting. As the chip in your card made it harder to clone, the criminals moved online, and then they moved on to something harder to defend. Not attacking the technology, but manipulating you, the scam, the fake romance, the fake invoice, the fake bank call, which is exactly where this story gets complicated. But first, what is actually doing the blocking? Here's what's under the hood. Less science fiction, more relentless pattern matching at impossible speed. When you tap your card, the fraud engine reads hundreds of features of that transaction and weighs them against how you spend and how billions of others spend. Then it scores the odds it's fraud. Visa says it does this on every transaction it sees, weighing those roughly 500 signals in under a millisecond. On top of that older engine, the networks have bolted a newer, generative AI layer. And the selling point isn't just catching more crooks. It's catching fewer innocent people. Visa says its newest model cuts false alarms, legitimate purchases wrongly flagged, by as much as 85%. Mastercard built its own. Its generative AI fraud model is trained on something like 125 billion transactions a year, and the company reports it lifts banks' fraud detection rates by about 20% on average, and in some cases by as much as 300%. Keep that pairing honest. 20% typical, 300 at the very top end, not 300 across the board. The people who run this talk about it like a war room. Visa's head of payment ecosystem risk, Michael Jabara, puts the new threat plainly. What once required deep technical skill, he says, can now be executed with a prompt. And Visa's Chief Risk and Client Services Officer, Paul Fabara, frames the whole thing as an arms race, deploying AI, in his words, not just to catch fraud after it happens, but to predict and prevent it. Strip away the corporate polish, and the claim underneath is real. A model scoring a transaction faster than you can blink on virtually every card purchase on Earth. Which raises the question this whole series has been circling. Why does AI work so well here, when it works so badly at the thing everyone actually wants it to do? This is exactly my world: forecasting, algorithmic trading. And here's the thing almost nobody explains. The same math that can't predict a stock is nearly unbeatable at catching fraud. The difference isn't the AI, it's the problem. Think about what an AI needs to actually learn something. Picture studying for a test. Fraud is the dream exam. Every answer gets graded the second you give it. The answer key shows up overnight, and the questions barely change from one year to the next. The market is the nightmare version. You find out if you were right months later. The grading is fuzzy, and the questions rewrite themselves the instant you figure them out. An AI needs 4 things to learn, and fraud, the dream exam, has all of them. The market has almost none. 1. Clean answers. When a fraud slips through, the customer reports it, and the bank gets a label. That one was fraud, for certain. Billions of those labels pile up. The market never tells you the right answer like that. Was today's dip a buying signal or a trap? You only ever find out much later, buried in noise. 2. Fast feedback. Fraud models retrain on yesterday's confirmed fraud, constantly. The pattern of a stolen card shows up in hours. In markets, the feedback is slow, ambiguous, and by the time you're sure, the world has moved. 3. A real signal. Your spending has a fingerprint. A stolen card pattern is a genuine break from it, a real anomaly standing out against a stable background. A stock's next tick is mostly randomness wearing a costume. And 4. The one that matters most. Catching fraud doesn't erase fraud. The pattern stays findable. But the instant everyone spots the same edge in a market and trades on it, that edge vanishes. The act of using it destroys it. I covered that in the episode on beating the market. Fraud doesn't fight you back that way. Now, I have to be honest, because honesty is the whole point of this channel. Fraud isn't perfectly stable. The criminals adapt, the patterns drift, the models decay and have to be retrained. It's not a frozen target. But compared to a financial market, it's a chalkboard standing still. That's why the same toolkit that humbled the hedge funds is, quietly, one of the most effective AI systems ever deployed. Same engine, opposite world. And the strangest part? AI didn't just stumble into this fight. It's been quietly winning it for far longer than you'd ever guess. And here's what surprises people most. None of this is new. Rewind to 1992. No smartphones, no cloud, no chatbots. A company called HNC builds a neural network, the same broad idea powering today's AI, and points it at credit card fraud. To train it, the banks do something genuinely radical for rivals. They pool their fraud data, feeding one shared brain the patterns none of them could see alone. That system got a name, Falcon, and it became the most important AI you've never heard of. 3 decades later, by the company's own account, Falcon screens about 2/3 of the world's payment cards. It is widely credited as the first large-scale neural network ever put to work on fraud. And it has been running, learning, catching in the background of your financial life since before most people had an email address. That's the real lineage of this story, not a 2023 breakthrough, a 30-year quiet success. Neural networks in the 90s, machine learning in the 2000s, generative AI today. The same core idea sharpened over and over. While the rest of finance spent those decades discovering the hard way that AI can't reliably predict a market, this one corner of it just kept winning, and the headlines almost never noticed. So if AI has been blocking fraud for 30 years and getting better every year, why is fraud still here at all? Why isn't it solved? Because of the thing I planted at the very start. The other side has AI now too. Here is the catch that keeps this from being a commercial. Every weapon I just described, the fraudsters have it too. They use AI to clone a loved one's voice from a few seconds of audio, to invent fake identities that never belonged to a real person, to run scams that once took a skilled crew, now done, as Visa's Jabara said, with a prompt. One analysis from Deloitte estimates generative AI could roughly triple US fraud losses by 2027, up from about $12 billion in 2023. And to be clear, that's fraud getting through, the opposite of the blocked number we opened with. And look closely at where the lines are moving. The network's AI is genuinely winning against structured fraud, the cloned cards, the automated attacks, pushing those numbers down. But the scams that target people, the romance fraud, the fake investment pitch, the impersonated bank, are still climbing to record highs. Reported consumer fraud and internet crime losses both hit new records in 2025. The machine is brilliant at spotting a stolen card. It's far weaker at stopping you from being talked into sending the money yourself. The newest front is already opening. The AI agents about to do your shopping for you. Both networks are racing to build the guardrails. Ways to prove a shopping bot is the real, authorized one and not an imposter, before that becomes the next open door. So here's the real lesson of this whole series. AI was never magic, and it was never a menace. It's a tool, astonishing at the problems it fits, useless at the ones it doesn't. Fraud fits, the market doesn't. Knowing which is the entire game. But after 5 episodes of watching AI lose, falter, and overreach, this one earns a different ending. Because the only way to fight bad AI is with better AI. And that's a line we get to keep moving. And for once in this series, the quiet machine working in the background, asking for nothing and taking no credit, is working for you. That's not financial advice, but it might be the most reassuring thing I've told you all series.